Alright guys, such comic again. I hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. What a second day at the Call of Duty World Championship. The pre-tournament favourites, in many respects the pre-tournament heavy favourites, eliminated in dead last place from this tournament out in Kitchener in absolutely remarkable, shocking fashion. The way that Thieves turned up to this tournament and big drama hitting the timeline as a result. What does that mean in terms of changes after the tournament? What does it mean over the next couple of months? And what does it mean for who's going to be this year's Call of Duty World Champion? Because our winners finals in this tournament was not the winners finals that many would have expected. There are still 6 teams alive in the championship, but right now one team has emerged as a rather clear favourite indeed. Very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always, I would greatly appreciate it. We've got to begin here with some of the more realistic gameplay that we have seen in Call of Duty. This is Red Card. Have a look at the stands and see what that might remind you of this weekend. Because again, it was a talking point today, it's got to be said, and Scrappy was getting into it big time as we know, and we'll see that in a few seconds time because the talk was, oh, it's Thursday, right? It's Thursday at Champs. People aren't going to be out there yet, they're going to turn up for the weekend. I still think that is going to be true to some extent. But obviously, it's maybe not as true on Friday as we might have liked it to have been. There was lots of talk about it going into these matches. We'll get to them in a second. There was some drama and challenges as well. Asim wasn't so happy about this. The lights kept flickering on and off in the stage. We'll talk tomorrow how that's all getting on, really. And, well, the results of challenges. Look, as ever, there was some issues with the challenges side, but fundamentally, I think they've done a great job running this, and the champion will be crowned in due course as well. And the Rookie of the Year was crowned as Rencor, but, which I thought was such a great moment. I mean, Heretics as a team, you can't deny that they're really likeable guys. Rencor, I think, especially, the interviews that he's done, the stories that he's told, just make, you know, you want to root for Rencor, and I think most people would agree with that assessment. And the fact that he got Super up there to kind of give him the credit as well, because, look, I think Rencor was the Rookie of the Year. But Super definitely wasn't far away from having a good shout at it, and the fact that both of those guys are in there, the only other real candidate was Exnid. I think it was pretty clear before the season started it was going to be Rencor, but that was basically because he was the only rookie. Where you look at the league at the start of the season, with the exception of the Saudi guys, it was only Rencor, and as the season's gone on, thankfully we've had some other talents pop up into the league again, Super included, but Rencor I think from day one was always going to win it, but he actually won it emphatically. It's not like Rencor won it because he was just the best of a bad bunch, like he was really good, and Heretics are great as well, still alive in the tournament, but not in the way that they would have liked to have been. So that was a cool story. Rencor wins it, but Super gets the shout out as well. MVP goes to Scrap. No doubt about this. Over the course of the regular season, no doubt that Scrap was the MVP in my eyes. The stats, the numbers, the championships, the MVPs over the season absolutely accommodate for that. But today was a rather different story, and Scrap was talking about it and saying, look, we went back to back, I don't care about that, you know, we're going for the big one, right? I'm missing this tournament, I'm missing the World Championship, I've not won it yet. Well, you know, that wait will have to continue, because let's get into the series. Thieves played Seattle Surge, Vancouver Surge, so I still keep calling them. Again, the talking point at the start of the series was again about the crowd. I think the way that they present things and the way that the tickets were sold, lots of people understandably went for the VIP tickets down in, you know, the actual, by the stage basically, which means that it's pretty busy down there, but the other parts of the stage that people see watching from home obviously don't look so busy, and it is a big talking point because, I mean, here's Darian, Scrap's girl, of course, and showing this picture of what it looks like, and it's like, you know, it's not looking great for a world championship, is it? I think that's, look, the viewership from home's still been great. Like, there's still buzz around competitive Call of Duty, there's still buzz around the world championship. Unfortunately, the location of the venue and other factors have meant that in person, it's not apparently been the best experience, and that would not surprise me. I mean, I was at Champs last year in Dallas. I know what that was like. I know what it sounded like. I know what it felt like, and I know what it looked like for sure. Having 7,000 odd people in an arena, you know, it was crazy in there. Like, it was one of the craziest things that I've ever been to in person. This year it feels like a different story, and I think that Brian is right when he talks about the optics of this. Like, imagine somebody tuned into COD Champs, they've never watched Call of Duty before, but they've heard, okay, yeah, this is the World Championship, it's the biggest event of the year, I guess I'll tune in, and they see that in the crowd, it's like, oh, this esports like C tier, right? Unfortunately, that is an implication, but we've got to talk about the big series, because it was a red card hardpoint game one, a game mode that all year long Thieves have not lost. But this is the implication, right? You play for an entire month of practice. what was it going to do? Was it going to improve some teams? Was it going to make others worse? There were certainly teams that I was looking at, and I actually mentioned Boston a couple of times as a team that I felt were going to be ones to put in more work than others. We'll get to them in a second. But for Thieves, look, it's always harder to stay on top than it is to get to the top in the first place. But the fact that they came out and played as they did this weekend, I mean, I know that fingers will be pointed at Ghosty after this performance because this series he wasn't good. I mean, the first series he wasn't good either. They come in against Surge, they get beat game 1, and again, they went into this semi-shell-shocked mode where Ghosty just couldn't buy a kill second map, and neither could HyDra. I mean, this guy was potential MVP candidate, best player in the world. What am I watching here, right? He knows Neptune's in the corner, he goes to the CHaLy, they've just lost their heads. There's no doubt about it that Thieves just lost their heads and played terribly. Octane was sitting back here because he couldn't believe his eyes. And then they get crushed in the control as well. And that's GG. Thieves bomb out of the tournament, right? I mean, I couldn't have seen this one coming, really. Going into the tournament, I felt like the Boston series was always a little interesting, but I still didn't see them losing it. And then this one against Surge, I guess, is losable, but it's just the manner of the defeat is nothing short of remarkable that Thieves have turned up as the heavy favourites, right? They were the heavy favourites for this tournament, and they've been double-rounded without really too much difficulty at all. And it raises serious questions because, look, if I'm Thieves, do I make a change? I think the answer is no. But it's not like they've come top 2, top 3, top 4. Yes, some might say it's just another LAN event, but it's not really just another LAN event. This is the World Championship. This is when things matter the most, and if you can't perform here, there will be questions as to why that is the case. The team has done great this season, sure, but when it mattered, they bombed out again. What does that say about the players? Is Scrappy a fraud at the World Championship? What's going on the Ghost? I mean, none of them played well, obviously, but you know what I'm saying. The pressure was there. Ghosty didn't turn up this tournament. Obviously, there'll be some serious criticism for that. And if they'd have come fourth or whatever, people would have said, wow, that's a shocking performance. But I think people would have said you'd expect them to still stick it out. When you place dead last, then there's questions, right? Then people start talking to be like, wow, dead last is quite the result. And, last year FaZe came top 6 and was so close, we believe, to making a change for Cellium, and then they won the World Cup. And that might still happen, but when it really mattered here for Thieves at the biggest event, they got crushed out of the series. Again, losing another control. They were unbeatable in that game mode. And then losing another round 5 control, to Boston out to Surge, it is just terrible. And they did bring a bit of a fake comeback on the, the red card, but in the end it didn't matter. And yeah, HyDra 1.2, Scrap with a 1.01, but Ghosty had a pretty tough series. And on the other side, it was, all the guys played pretty well. So yeah, commendable from Surge, absolutely. But of course, immediately after this series, the reaction was kicking in full force. aBeZy from Toronto. And look, it's not like Toronto look right now like they're going to win this whole event. But he made that statement, didn't he, in the off-season when they picked up a couple of his players and said, look, we're going to have a better team than you guys this year. And did they outplace them at the World Championship? Well, the answer is yes, although they didn't, obviously win the events that Thieves did. But Adam says, look, it's time to get to the airport, buddy. Get out of here. And Scrap says, good chirp, fair enough. But let's not forget, you're hosting the worst event anyone in the venue has ever been to. Also, hopefully you're not giving out parking tickets to your players still for parking at the facility. So, he just throws another dagger in there. And you can talk about this tweet and this back and forth all day. Should an owner be coming at a player? Should Scrappy be clapping back in this way? What about this whole parking tickets thing at the facility? Not at the venue, to keep in mind. I think parking's free at the venue. But at the facility where the guys play from in Toronto, apparently there's been issues there. And look, I'm not going to talk about parking tickets in depth. But do they control the parking tickets being given out? Is it done by some local authority or company? I don't know. But you know what I'm saying anyway. I just think for Scrap, it's funny, and I'll take the drama, obviously. But when you've just been slammed top 8 out of the World Championship, and at the end of the day, whatever Scrap says about the state of the venue and whatever, this was still the World Championship, and as he says, this was the tournament that mattered, and we played terrible when it mattered. Was the year good? Sure, but in the grand scheme of things, this is the one that mattered. They're still EWC, but nothing will feel the same as champs. So Scrap admits that, right? This was the big one, and they bottled it. And, obviously he's in the replies beefing Adam, which is fair enough. It's good entertainment, but I know that there are some fans out there that will say, look, Scrap, let's maybe stop tweeting for the next few weeks and try and lock in again, because this was a shambles. And Connor Chambers, this I thought was kind of notable. He used to be the general manager at Toronto, and he effectively backs up Scrappy's tweet and says, this is a shambles. Why did we do the event here? Big conversation, but I mean, really, I want to focus on Thieves because they bombed out. It is hilarious in some respects, like ironic, I don't know. Envoy talked about the challenger's talent. Look, I don't think that the point that he was making was necessarily too flawed, but the fact that he came to this tournament, they lost to Boston, ton of guys down there that have been from Challengers either recently or come up from that scene, and then they lost to a Surge team who brought Neptune up from Challengers this season. Nastie was down in Challengers not long ago, comes up to Thieves, now joins Surge and knocks Thieves out of the World Championship. What a story that is for Nastie. Abuzah was in Challengers not long ago, and then 04, of course, came up rather recently as well, so that's quite the storyline. As Ghosty says, couldn't do anything in search. That was a real main weakness for Ghosty this weekend. But yeah, he says it's been a long year, been a difficult year. They take home 40 grand, but the pre-tournament favourites, the first team eliminated from the World Championship. And I thought going into this tourney, we were looking at another team to win an event for the first time, or win a championship, right? In the CDL era, it's been a different champion every single year. The way that things are going, we might still get it, right? We might still get it, but it's not going to be Thieves in 2022 when Kenny was there doing it again. It could well still be FaZe, could well still be OpTic, or it could be somebody else. This was a clip from a couple of months ago now when they beat them online or whatever, and they were talking all kinds of trash and saying, look, don't chew my body. You'll never beat me on LAN. You'll never beat me in a finals. Like, you guys are terrible. And yeah, well, that backfired rather nicely, didn't it, over time? That's the Thieves stuff. The FaZe series I'm going to spend about 30 seconds on because they played the Ravens. It wasn't particularly interesting. Game 1, they won. It wasn't dominant, but Game 2, they brought a massive 2-5 comeback. Pretty much an unacceptable defeat as far as the Ravens are concerned. Then they dominated the control. So it's not like FaZe bowled them over, but once they iced up the 2-5 comeback, then they got the job done there. I think as far as Carolina are concerned, it's been a pretty disastrous end to the season. It is a classic case of drop Vivid and find out, and that's pretty much what they've seen. But with the exception of Gwinn, is Rex getting another opportunity in the league? Maybe not. TJ definitely fell off towards the end of the year, and Slasher started the year really strongly and then fell off drastically. I don't know what happens with the Ravens. I wouldn't be surprised if that organisation disappears entirely. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if those guys are scrambling for spots after the Esports World Cup. Maybe before, who knows? Changes could potentially be made. So, look, I'm hoping those guys stay around the league in some form. But I will say that after this series result today, there is questions as to how many of these players on the Ravens side we might see again in the Pro League. So tweet your thoughts and comments on that. As I say, FaZe get the job done emphatically by the numbers in the end, but it wasn't quite as clear cut. Obviously, if Ravens had won the search, it could have potentially been a different story. And I said it so many times going into this tournament, how important Search and Destroy was going to be this tourney. I said it with regards to OpTic. If they wanted to make a run, their search had to be good. Well, the best Search and Destroy team right now looks at the venue like it is the Boston Breach. And look, the funny thing is about this Boston team, if you guys watch the Dope Check show, you will know I've gassed up these guys all year. I always liked this team. When I saw them in Dallas walking around as a full quartet, just not even with the coach or anything, they were just walking around together as friends. I was like, you know what? This is a team of guys that are talented, but potentially can be greater than the sum of their parts. And I was, I've been a Boston believer all year until they bombed out a Major 4. And I was like, you know what? I think maybe they had their chances, right? But this is what I will credit Boston with heavily, because as much as I've liked this team, and after Major 4 I thought they might be done, thinking about it going into champs, I was like, they will have been one of the teams to grind the hardest. Like, Boston will have spent the last month working probably harder than like most other teams. That's just the way that their culture is, the way that Doug Centimardin set things up, the way that Shawnee is as a coach as well. And, they've come in here and yeah, they've scammed game 1 Hassy and the Hardpoint, but after that, guess what they did? They bounced back heavily in the series. They win the Search and Destroy because they seem to be winning every single Search and Destroy. Everyone knew that was going to be critical, this event, with Search and Destroy prowess. Boston have come in and they've Neslo twice in a row. They've won 4 Search and Destroys in a row, and they're top 3 in the tournament. I mean, look, Miami, this was a crucial map. This control Hacienda, this was a huge map for Boston to win. They then lost the hardpoint in dominant fashion, but it doesn't matter when you're just unreal at search. Snoopy's popping ninja defuses, he's popping in streaks, Purjay's making takeover plays game 5. Like, what a series we had on our hands here, and what an absolutely banging result that we have. I mean, look, this is a banger series. Miami were clearly the favourites, but Boston have just played some great stuff. And if they get a Neslo every series like this, I mean, could you imagine what a ring that would be? Los Angeles Grillers did it from losers bracket when they won Major 2 back in Vanguard with Slasher and Nassim and those guys. They won every search basically to win the tournament. There are 4 search and destroys in the grand final. Like, I'll just remind you guys of that. That out of 9 maps in the grand final, 4 of them are search. You've got to win 5 maps to win a series. So, look, I'm just saying, search and destroy wins championships, certainly this year. And Boston are looking pretty difficult to stop in that game mode. So it's such a cool story. Like, I'm so happy for Snoopy and for, I think, Purge, like, especially, obviously for the other guys too, but I feel like especially this year, him and Snoopy have just been a great duo. Vindicates a lot of the decisions made by Doug Martin as well. And it's just an amazing story, isn't it, for Boston to be top 3 at champs with Thieves already out of the first round. So yeah, the funny thing is, you look at the numbers, you're like, damn, Real at a 1.36, Super at a 1.22, and they lost. Well, yeah, it's search and destroy, baby. That's where Boston got the series won. And if we thought our discussion on the FaZe versus Raven series was quick, well, another absolute smoke show by OpTic Texas. And what the hell did they do in this last month? Because they turned up here against the home team, right? The home crowd cheese buff or whatever we talked about in a lot of the World Championship last year. This time around, OpTic turn up against Toronto, the Mercury's Bowl, as it were. And well, thanks for Mercury's, guys, because what a talent this guy is. But it's not just about Mercury's. Obviously, the team has taken a major step forward with Mercury's, the progress they've made. But, like, OpTic are playing some really untouchable stuff right now. Like, we saw FaZe was struggling to deal with it, and it's not like FaZe got bombed out of the tournament top 8 like Thieves did. This is an OpTic team playing at a level that we've not seen for a very long time. And what I will say is playing with an energy that we have not seen or heard in a very long time. I'm not going to lie, this season now is shaping up to, like, the script writers might have cooked something rather spectacular. The way this season went for OpTic, for them to turn up to champs, you know, I had them as my dark horse of the tournament, and right now it's looking pretty good. But if they were playing like this all season, if they had Mercury's all season, whatever, then it would have been a remarkably different story. But the listening they went to gave me vibes of last year's champs, and I'm sure that it did to you guys as well. The energy that Shotzzy was bringing to the table, we've not heard that really all year, even on some of the LAN events. Like, it's clear that OpTic just really want this, right? They've put in the work over the last month. The team has talked about that a lot, how good they've been in scrims. I mean, Mercury's is just switching to the sub and hitting shots like that. They're at 190 to 60 on... Like, it's a competent Toronto team. They've not been great, but, like, these guys are incredible talents. They took down the Ravens team. I guess it was a pretty close series, but they did beat them. And Toronto just come in here and get absolutely waxed by OpTic. Like, and this is a map that Toronto aren't bad at. This game 1 Skyline. OpTic slammed them heavily in the 100-point club. Insight was 11 in 24. Beans was double negative. But, like, everyone on OpTic was positive and massively so. Everyone on Toronto was negative and massively so. Scump was reacting to it. I mean, this is Shotzy's reaction. Look at him go, standing up, talking all kinds of trash across the stage. You guys are terrible. Thanks to Mercury's, whatever he said. Huke then turns up in the search and destroy. Wins this big round right here. I mean, like, yeah, you can't really be whiffing shots like that, but Beans has got an open shot potentially. Huke just spins around, takes him down. Okay, he was probably dead in the round, to be fair, anyway, but the point is that after that moment, OpTic just slammed through them in the search and destroy. Just a hot little 6-1. And what was crazy about watching the control as well, as OpTic won this round and went on to win the series, is like, you know, OpTic didn't even really look like losing a round. That was the scary thing. So OpTic Texas have officially advanced to the winners finals of the Call of Duty World Championship without dropping a map. 3-0ing FaZe, 3-0ing Toronto, and now they play Boston Breach. I mean, you couldn't ask, as much as I like Boston, if you're OpTic, you couldn't ask for a better scenario to turn up to the winners finals tomorrow, try and make it to back-to-back World Championship Grand Finals, and let's be honest, try and run it back in terms of a ring, because right now, OpTic are the tournament favourites. The way that they've played so far, the matches they have to come, I'm never counting FaZe out until they're out of the tournament, but wow, like, say what you want about this tournament, about the location, about whatever, and I have said a lot and will likely continue to do so, but what I'll also say is that in terms of matches and storylines and interest in the weekends, like, this could not have been much better in many respects. It's created everything that I wanted out of this weekend, some of the storylines in terms of potential roster drama, and it seems like it's creating a completely wide open battle for who's going to be this year's COD champion. And let's not forget, FaZe will play Miami tomorrow in the losers bracket as well. It's a spectacular day. Very much intrigued to your thoughts on all of this stuff in the comment section below. Dashy with a 1.8 on the series. I'll say that again, or maybe I won't. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.